You guys want to win a $50 Amazon gift card? All you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe to enter our giveaway. We're announcing 3 winners on April 30th.
I don't know him.
Anything over 40 grand he owes me, because that was his last paycheck. I wiped my with that money. I tipped that money.
Well, just about every sport in the world right now is having to drop due to circumstance. There's a few select sports that lucked out based on how they work, and professional fighting just so happens to be one of those sports. Given it only really takes 2 fighters, a referee, and a couple cameramen at most, the UFC can get by continuing on schedule without live crowds and maintain their cash flow with relatively little harm done. In fact, due to all the other shortages and entertainment taking place, this might put some more eyes on UFC 249 when it comes up, and in turn a few more dollars into the pockets of the top stars. Let's see just how big those biggest pockets have gotten this year though. I'm D Wicket, and here's 10 of the highest paid UFC fighters in 2020.
Who gives a Is this the Money Channel? Who the is this shit?
Number 10, Daniel Cormier. One of the biggest names in the sport, Daniel Cormier is easily one of the best fighters currently signed to the UFC. With a 22-2-1 record across his entire mixed martial arts career, Daniel has clearly proved himself as one of the most viable fighters in the entire world, and Dana White has clearly embraced Daniel for exactly what he's worth. The former Olympian and first man ever to defend 2 UFC titles simultaneously, Cormier has amassed a more than impressive $5.29 million heading into the new decade. A nice chunk, likely around $1 million bare minimum, stems from his direct sponsors, including Monster, Metro PCS, Reebok, and even the American Kickboxing Academy. Aside from them, Cormier has steadily collected paychecks since 2013, most recently snagging $500,000 in his most recent fight last August.
He was wearing these. I was like, well, look down.
Yeah.
And I had on the ones, the bread ones,
Wow.
and they just the bread ones are so much better than these shoes.
That's a heat check. They call that a heat check.
I was like, come on, Rumble.
Number 9, Vitor Belfort. Next up, we've got Vitor Belfort. At the young age of 19, Belfort left his home of Brazil in search of turning his passion for fighting into something a little bit more serious, and it's a damn good thing he did, because going into 2020, he's found himself in the top 10 overall highest earners of the company.
You know, I'm not fighting for money. I rather not working only for money. I would be in Wall Street or whatever.
While Belfort doesn't have nearly the clean green record that Daniel's got, Belfort has over a decade on Cormier when it comes to the tenure with the UFC. Belfort was one of the UFC originals and has consistently fought for the promotion since 1997, and when you put your body on the line like that year in and year out, especially for a man as wealthy as Dana White, yeah, you usually can expect to be paid pretty handsomely. About $5.46 million handsomely if you'd like to throw some extra chunks of change around.
Wow, that's more than I make in a year.
Don't be asking me for a raise.
Number 8, Donald Cerrone. The fighting world's most authentic cowboy, Donald Cerrone has some of the most impressive statistics in the entire sport of mixed martial arts. He currently holds the record for the most wins within the UFC at 23. He's tied with Jim Miller for the most UFC fights at 34, tied up with numerous names over the most UFC fights in a calendar year at 6 fights if you're just talking about a 12-month block, holds the record for the most finishes at 16, most knockdowns in a fight at 20, as well as having the most bonuses and being top 3 overall for all-time performance and finishes of the night. That is a goddamn resume in 3 halves if you ask me, and for his troubles, Cerrone has been gifted a respectable $5.5 million over the years.
Started looking around property somewhere where I could ride my bikes, have land horses, shoot my guns, and we'll take it, hand her cash. Bought it just from right there, didn't even go inside.
Number 7, John Jones. While John Jones did quite literally just get arrested for a DWI,
So I do have to place you under arrest for DWI, okay?
if it comes down to bailout money, I'm pretty sure Jones is going to be able to afford his freedom. One of the few men in the sport to truly never be defeated in a clean fight, John Jones is something of a UFC final boss, the true testing ground for the most skilled of fighters. Until this day, no one has beaten that level and conquered the beast to either knock him out or submit him. And for that, Jones has a lot of value on his name, and for that, Dana White has accumulatively gotten just 50 grand short of $6 million into John Jones's pockets over the years.
Financial situation is unbelievable, and I'm not even trying to brag. I have made millions of dollars this year, and I pay millions of dollars in taxes.
Number 6, Alistair Overeem. Some people may overlook Overeem when it comes to his drawing power and salary, but damn, the boy's been raking in that cash. Alistair has one of the highest fight counts out there in terms of mixed martial arts. However, he started his professional career way back in 1999 and didn't end up signing with the UFC until 2011. That only played to Alistair's benefit, however, as he came in as an already established hot commodity with a hefty contract to his name due to the name he had cultivated beforehand. Overeem's a deadly man with some notable wins over UFC tops like Mark Hunt, Frank Mir, a near victory over Mirko Cro Cop, and even being the final man to defeat Brock Lesnar before he'd leave for pro wrestling. All things considered, Overeem's made a solid $6.1 million out of just his post-2011 career so far. Number 5, Mark Hunt. One of the biggest and baddest powerhouses in all of MMA, Mark Hunt is so damn good in the octagon, he's the dude who popularized the walk-off technique. i.e. walking away from your opponent before the referee calls the fight due to confidence that the opponent is already knocked out and doesn't need more damage inflicted. It's pretty much the equivalent to the badass walking away from the explosion in movies without even looking, except this isn't an actor following a script in a scene, it's a real-life fighter confident he just bashed your brains in.
Oh my god, how do they walk away in movies without flinching when it explodes behind them? There's no way! I call bullshit on that!
Hunt's charisma and kickboxing acumen, along with a victory in the 2001 K1 World Grand Prix, made him a hot commodity in the world of mixed martial arts, one Dana White was clearly happy to sign to the dotted back in 2010, as a decade later he's already earned himself $6.3 million.
For fighting for me, it's not about money anymore. I started because I was a broke-ass fool, but this wasn't about the money now. It's about achieving my goals and dreams.
Number 4, Georges St-Pierre. Well, you don't be the best in the game without controlling its cash flow, and while the man commonly referred to as potentially the GOAT isn't topping the chart, hey man, 5th place ain't too bad. GSP needs no introduction. He's been professionally fighting ever since 2002, and all 18 years later, he's only found himself with a pair of losses across the near 2 decades. That's a loss every 9 years on average, something literally no one watching this video can hold a claim to in goddamn any field imaginable. While he hasn't stepped inside the octagon since late 2017, his career was so huge and impactful at the time that those 3 years out haven't mattered in the slightest, and he still holds incredibly high placement among the top UFC earners, having jumped Mark Hunt, who is still in active competition, by an entire million and landing himself at $7.04 million.
The thing I like to do with money, I think, is more like vacation, food. I like, that kind of stuff. Buying gifts for people like my family, because we grew up very humble, so.
Number 3, Michael Bisping. And just like GSP, Michael Bisping managed to move so much merchandise during his time in the limelight that he's still on the highest paid Mount Rushmore despite his last fight taking place in the same month as GSP's. In fact, George's final fight was against Michael Bisping, with Michael only taking on one more fight later that same November before retiring later in 2018 due to his eye injury, as well as him pursuing a career in Hollywood. And while Bisping is surely bringing in the big bucks from the big screens, when it comes to how much coin he was putting in the purse from just fights alone, Bisping just barely edged himself above George before it was all said and done, amassing $7.14 million across his fighting career. Number 2, Khabib. The phrase greatest fighter gets thrown around a lot, and hell, I've been pretty liberal with it. I've even tossed it around a few times in this very video, but if anyone truly holds the claim to being the best current fighter on UFC's modern day roster, it's Khabib. Across his 12 years as a professional mixed martial artist, he's gone 28-0. 28 opponents up, all 28 opponents either knocked down or submitted by the night's end, including his legendary matchup and victory over Conor McGregor. When you've got Dana White talking up just how much coin you're carrying in UFC press conferences, yeah, clearly you've made a decent living from the sport. While not all $50 million of Khabib's earnings have come from the UFC, Jesus Christ, $50 million, a more than respectable $8.68 million has been earned via punching men in the head for good old Dana White.
Doesn't seem like financial security is a huge issue for him. So
Let me tell you what, everybody talks about how rich Conor is. Khabib is rich.
So I mean, that's kind of
Khabib has that type of money.
And number 1, Conor McGregor. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, this list is topped by the Irishman. Call it predictable, call him a man who knows goddamn well how to sell a fight. We had slow jumps across this list from the whole range of the 5 millions, a jump straight from 6 to 7 million, and then another million jump all the way up to Silva. Conor McGregor is such a damn draw that Anderson Silva, our number 2 entry on the list, has only earned 2/3 of the money Conor McGregor has made off the UFC in about 1/3 of the time. Between his huge drawing power, his multiple sponsorships, and that loud mouth of his, he's managed to pull in just over $12 million. That is insane, and even if somehow someone else had beat him, if he would have placed secondary on this list, he would still be the de facto number 1 anyways, because through his UFC career, he managed to get a boxing match with Floyd Money Mayweather, and despite losing to the money, he walked away with $75 million. Are you kidding me?
There's word that you could make $10 million on this thing. Is that accurate?
On this fight?
Yep.
I'm going to breeze past the 10 million mark.
And those are the 10 highest paid UFC fighters as of 2020. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below. After liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and notifications, and that bell.